Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen is spending way too much money on takeout. Am I the jerk for completely cutting my wife off from our finances because she wouldn't stop ordering takeout? Plus update. I'm 41, male. My wife is 39. My wife doesn't work due to a minor disability. It's not as if she cannot work, but she complains of discomfort and exhaustion all the time. The discussion over her working basically ended 5 years ago, and I've completely given up on the prospect of her ever having a job again. Seeing as she doesn't even come close to qualifying for disability and brings in no income, we currently live entirely off my salary. I don't mind financially supporting her, but my wife's spending habits have gradually become more and more reckless. It began with her ordering takeout twice a week, and then that escalated into 3 times a week, and now she orders takeout nearly every day. This is all despite our fridge being stocked constantly. I do the shopping, and I make sure to even keep our freezer full of things she would only have to microwave. Last month was a particularly heavy one for her. She spent $1,176 on delivery apps alone. We cannot afford this. There were several days that she ordered twice. I may have reacted harshly, but on Friday, I pulled money out of our savings, completely paid off the card, and then canceled it. I then removed all the money from our joint account and funneled it into my own account. Apparently, my wife learned this when she tried to order takeout. She tried to call the company, who explained the card had been canceled. She texted me asking what had happened, and I responded that she was cut off. Well, when I walked in the door that evening, my wife was lying on the floor dramatically, saying that she had low blood sugar. I told her she could eat any of the food we have in our fridge or freezer. I also noticed that she took the garbage out, probably for the first time in a decade. I'm surprised she even knows where the outdoor bin was. I can only assume she was disposing of the evidence of what she ate, as she was pretending to have not eaten. But I honestly don't care enough to dig through the garbage to find it. She was furious at me all weekend. Was what I did over the top? Update. For the following few days, my wife kept talking about how I was financially mistreating her. She threw several tantrums, despite apparently being severely malnourished, threatened divorce, threw a bunch of food we had in the fridge away to try and strong-arm me into letting her get takeout, and even tried to guess my bank account password a bunch of times. Sorry, my password is not Taco Bell 123. I learned that's what she had tried because the bank sent me an email about it. But last Friday, the complaints and threats stopped. She seemed mostly back to normal. I figured she had given up. That was until today, which was garbage day. When I took the last bag out before taking the bin down to the curb, I discovered half a dozen fast food bags and other takeout containers in it. My wife wasn't supposed to have access to the money. I had no idea how she was affording the food. I confronted her about it, and at first, she denied everything. I had to bring all of her fast food garbage in to get her to fess up. She had taken out a loan. Now, I thought that she had borrowed money from a friend or a family member, but she had taken out one of those horrible payday loans. Before you ask, no, I have no idea how she was approved. Within the next hour, I froze my credit. I then drove her to the payday loan place where I paid the loan off in cash. I will now have to dip further into my savings to pay the rent. I suppose in a certain way, cutting her off was successful. She didn't order takeout anymore. She just drove to the restaurants to pick up her food for the low price of $20 for every 100 she borrowed, so $60 in fees total. In addition, I told her that we would be getting divorced. So yeah, my marriage is over. I don't even know what alimony laws in my state are like, but I assume she'll happily live in a cardboard box under a bridge if Uber Eats will bring her food there. Am I the jerk for refusing to drop my ex-husband's last name? I, 56 female, divorced my husband 2 years ago after 26 years of marriage. We have 4 kids and the split was amicable. He came out and we mutually agreed to part ways. Changing my name wasn't a priority. Updating IDs, legal documents, and bank accounts would be a huge hassle. I still use his last name on official documents but go by my maiden name socially. Recently, he got engaged to a wonderful guy. I've been supportive of their relationship, but during my grandson's birthday party, my ex suddenly asked if I'd consider dropping his last name. His fiancée chimed in, saying it makes him uncomfortable that I still use it. I was caught off guard and awkwardly joked that unless they wanted to spend hours in lines at various government offices, I wasn't going to change it. My ex did not laugh. He insisted it's about starting a new chapter and wants me to move on. The whole situation felt bizarre. For 2 years, it's never been an issue, and now they're ganging up on me. After the party, my ex called and argued that keeping his name makes it hard for his fiancée to feel like they're starting a fresh life. I countered that our kids still use the same name, and it would feel strange for me to be the odd one out. What really hurt was learning from my youngest son that his fiancée feels threatened by my name, assuming I'm clinging to some claim on my ex. I've made it clear I have zero interest in rekindling anything, and it feels like I'm being pressured to erase a part of my identity. My ex admitted his fiancée is uncomfortable because he sees me keeping the name as a power play. I feel like I'm caught between trying to keep peace and being forced into something just because his fiancée is insecure. They want me to go through the hassle of changing everything for their comfort. I told my ex that I'll consider it later, maybe after they're married and settled, but now he's furious, saying I'm being petty and selfish. My friends think I should stand my ground, but my kids are divided. One thinks I should just give in to keep the peace, while the other agrees that it's ridiculous to change it just because his fiancée feels insecure. I'm frustrated. I don't see why a name on some legal documents is such a big deal, but they're making me feel like the villain. So, am I the jerk for refusing to drop my ex-husband's last name even though he's getting remarried? Not the jerk. Don't change your name. I had my ex's name for 22 years and changing it is horrible. I have so much stuff in that name, but as you stated, it's your children's name and you will always be their mother. If the fiancé has an issue, that's too bad. If you change it, you will always be angry with him for forcing you to, and if you don't, he will have to get over it. Seriously, stand your ground on this one. It's horrible to change, and he's trying to take control of you and your life. If he wins this one, it will be downhill from there with every choice you make regarding your kids and life events with the kids and the ex. I can only imagine the other demands he will make if he wins this one. Exactly. It's not just his name, it's the kid's name too. It's your family's name. That should honestly be a red flag about the fiancé, that he wants to change that. If they have such a problem with it, why does an ex just take the fiancé's last name? Am I the jerk for refusing to wake up my girlfriend for work, which led to her getting fired? I, 26 male, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend Jess, who's 28, for 3 years. Jess and I live together. Jess is not a morning person. This is primarily due to the fact that she's up until 2 or 3 a.m. every day on her phone, despite having to wake up at 8 a.m. I've tried to get her to start going to bed earlier so she could wake up on time, but she says that would leave her no time to do her own things. Since she only works until 4 p.m., this is false, but I decided not to press the issue. Generally, I have to wake Jess up. I wake up at 5, run for an hour, get home at 6, shower, eat breakfast, and use my computer for a bit. I'll start waking Jess up around 7:30. I fully understand it's ridiculous to have to wake up a 28-year-old woman, but I honestly don't mind, or at least I wouldn't mind if it weren't for the fact that waking Jess up is a nightmare. I start by gradually turning on the lights around 7:30, starting with the bedside lamp. Then I begin gently trying to wake her up. If she gets up around this time, she'll go to the bathroom, and when I return to the room, I'll find her asleep again. The worst part about waking her up is that she's so angry in the morning. She'll insult me, and when I bring up her words later, she just says, "I was sleepy and out of it. What do you want me to do?" Last Friday, she pushed things too far. I was waking her up as usual, and she walked past me to use the bathroom. She made an exaggerated, dry heaving sound at me. Then she said, "You smell. Take a shower." I had already taken a shower and always maintained good hygiene. That evening, I told her that our arrangement of me waking her up every day was done. I was done with her tantrums, done with her insults, and done with her ridiculous facial expressions when she was out of it. I told her I wasn't going to lift a finger to make sure she got up for work on time anymore. She was naturally upset, but I said she could wake herself up. Today was Monday, and unsurprisingly, she overslept and was over an hour late. Since she had already been written up twice during her probationary period, this was an automatic firing. Around noon, she called me, incoherently yelling about how I got her fired. I had to hang up on her and get back to work. When I got home, she immediately started yelling again and then demanded half my salary until she found a new job. I feel like making her go cold turkey on waking up might have been too sudden, and apparently she really liked her job. Should I have at least tried to wake her up? Not the jerk. It sounds like you've been trying to help Jess manage her mornings for quite a while, but her behavior has made it difficult for you to continue. You're not responsible for her choices, especially if you've communicated your concerns and tried to support her in the past. Not the jerk, and she sounds toxic. Are you sure this is a relationship that makes you happy? Not the jerk. You're not her parent, and it's not your responsibility to wake her up every day, especially with how disrespectful she's being about it. She's an adult and should be able to manage her own schedule. Her getting fired is on her, not you, and demanding half your salary, that's just unreasonable. I think my marriage to my husband is over. I need help. My husband and I have been together for 16 years. We have 2 kids. It's mostly been a good relationship with normal ebbs and flows. However, the past year has been pretty difficult for me, and I think I've reached my breaking point. I just want to make it clear before I start that my husband is a good man and I do love him. I've been a stay-at-home mom for most of our marriage. It was out of necessity rather than desire on my part. My husband was working to build his business, and we needed the flexibility of me being home. I had a job I loved, but I didn't make much, and it just made sense at the time. I also homeschool our kids because it works for us. I did all the normal stay-at-home mom stuff: dinner, cleaning, laundry, bills, etc. He helped when needed and was never resentful of it. He worked very long hours and many weekends, but I supported him because owning his business was his dream. About 3 years ago, I started to feel some fatigue from being the primary caregiver of our kids. I wanted more, and our business was pretty stable, so I agreed that I'd go back to school. Our kids are old enough now that schooling them is less hands-on, so again, it made sense. I graduated with my 2-year degree last year and started nursing school shortly thereafter. This is when things started to get rough. Nursing school takes a lot of time up. It requires so much time and energy. We discussed the shifting of responsibility and how difficult this was going to be for all of us, and he said he was supportive. He started making snide comments about things he was doing at home, things I had always taken care of, things that I guess he just didn't realize I did. I tried to communicate with him to see what could be done to make things easier for him during this transition. He's not a good communicator though, so I didn't push, which was a mistake on my part. The comments started getting more frequent. We've never been mean to each other, it's just not how we fight. Or rather, it hasn't been how we fight. He started getting resentful of the time I was at school or volunteering. I do volunteer quite a bit. Summer came and I thought things would get better. I got a job where I work a few days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I love my job so much, and it's really nice to finally be able to contribute to our income. It's really empowering. Over the past few months, I've become a lot more independent. Historically, I've needed my husband a lot more. I had some serious depression after our kids, and I couldn't do much without him, like going to the doctor or grocery shopping. Over the past 5 years, I've gotten that under control. Through nursing school, I've made many new friends that I like to spend time with. We grab quick dinners, and sometimes we head to the movies. This apparently bothers my husband, though he's never actually verbalized it. I started coming home from an activity, volunteering, or a night out with friends, to find anger on his part. He went through and read my text messages, trying to find something I was doing wrong. My friend group is mixed, both female and male friends, and most are younger than I am. When I come home, I never know how he'll react. Last night was pretty bad. He stopped replying to my random "I love you" texts, and this morning he didn't bother to say it back. He's hanging up on me, ignoring me, and twisting my words. Any self-esteem I've gained from following my dreams, he's crushing. To be clear, I'm home most nights. I go out with friends once or twice a week, but once is during the day. Like this week, on Sunday, I went to dinner with a friend who was leaving for New York the next day. I was gone for about 2 hours. Monday I was home. Tuesday I was working all day, then went up to school for midnight registration. Wednesday is my weekly volunteer day, and whoever is volunteering goes out for food afterward for about an hour. Today I'm working a short shift. Tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday I'm home. I'm just done. I'm so tired of feeling bad about myself, like I'm doing something wrong. I've tried to talk about all of this 1,000 times. I've suggested counseling. I'm going to therapy myself, but he's not interested. The problem is, I don't want my marriage to be over. I love him and I promised him forever. I don't break my promises. I just want things to go back to how they were a year ago. Update. About a month after I posted, I asked him for a separation. He agreed. I moved out and I've got my own place now. I thought maybe moving out would be the wake-up call that was needed to save the marriage, but it wasn't. However, it turned out to be the best thing for all of us. We share custody of our kids and they transitioned to public school and are doing very well. I'm doing pretty well too. It's been hard and there have been a lot of ups and downs, but it's been worth it. We're all so much happier now, and my ex and I are working really well together to co-parent our kids, and we're even friends. We'll always be there for each other, but we're better off apart. Not the happy ending that I was hoping for, but a happy ending nonetheless. Update 1 year later. My ex and I split last year. We're on good terms now and we share custody of our kids. We're actually friends too, which is nice. I'm in a school program and I graduate in December. Post-graduation, I'll be able to work pretty much anywhere. I hate the state that I live in. I'm miserable here. The weather, the culture, the politics, it's just not home to me and never has been. Previously, I had resigned myself to living here forever because my ex will be here forever. Now that I'm single again, I've been exploring the idea of moving, namely to the East Coast. I've always wanted to go there, and I feel like this is my chance. I have a trip planned in September to get a feel for the area and where I might want to live. I might put some applications in. The jerk part comes in because we have kids. I'd never force them to come with me, and they're old enough to make their own choices about where they want to live. But will I be the jerk for putting them in this situation? Having them make a choice? I can't imagine being stuck here for another 6 years until my youngest graduates, but I don't want to mess up their lives. Edit for a little more info. I'm going into the medical field, nursing, and the East Coast offers some of the best hospitals in the world. That's a huge factor in why I want to move there. I'll make at least twice what I'd make here and have lots of opportunity in my career. Edit 2. I'm currently in Texas. You're the jerk. You got so much support on your first post because everyone believed your sob story about how bad your husband was and what a saint you were for volunteering, going to school, and working. But honestly, this update makes it clear that you were just sick of your family the whole time. Go ahead and leave your kids if you want to, but don't be surprised when they want nothing to do with you. I feel like if your husband posted his side, it would be very different than yours. My wife goes to bed at 9 p.m. every night. My wife claims she needs to sleep at least 12 hours a day to feel well rested. This was something I thought was an exaggeration while we were dating, but after we moved in together, I quickly realized it was 100% true. My wife works a remote job from home, which means that she wakes up at 9 a.m. every morning, just barely enough time for breakfast before she clocks in at 9:30. She works 8 hours plus a mandatory 1-hour lunch break, during which she speed eats her lunch and goes back to work as soon as possible. That means she clocks out at 6:30 p.m. She makes a point to shower every day, and since she has no time to do it in the morning, she does it after work. That usually means she's done with everything at around 7:15. By this time, I've already arrived home and begun preparing dinner. She usually joins me to help, and we normally begin eating around 8. After finishing dinner and cleaning up, it's usually about 20 minutes to 9 when my wife will finally decide to partake in one of her hobbies, usually reading or watch or play something with me. This is the best part of my day. However, it doesn't ever last long enough, since by 9 p.m., my wife claims she's tired and needs to go to bed. This means that I get around 15 to 20 minutes per day to spend with my wife, which I do not feel is enough. But this is only one of the many issues this creates. She pressures me to go to bed at the same time she does, claiming it would be weird otherwise for a married couple and that me not doing so is the reason we don't hook up. I've tried to disprove her theory by going to bed at 9 as well, and sure enough, she's always too tired or minutes away from falling asleep. We're falling into a dead bedroom, and I believe that resentment might be setting in. I get sick if I go to bed that soon after dinner. I have a sensitive stomach, and my digestion will almost stop if I go to bed after eating a meal. I also experience terrible reflux. I just don't want to go to bed at 9, period. That's the time of my day when I'm finally free from my responsibility and can wind down and do what I want. I don't want to wait for the weekend to be able to do that. I don't want to be miserable for 5 days a week only to try and squeeze a few hours of fun in between all of the chores that need to be done. Regarding weekends, she keeps her sleep routine. This means that late night outings are out of the question unless a rare surge of energy happens. There's also not much time for fun because the weekend is usually when we tackle the huge backlog of chores that have accumulated during the week. I've tried to communicate to my wife that I need to be awake between at least 9 to 10:30 so I can do stuff I enjoy. I tell her that if she needs sleep, then she at least needs to be okay with the idea that I'll be in the living room doing something else. She has a few strong ideas about this, which leaves me frustrated. She believes that there is no such thing as night owls and early birds, and that sleep patterns are 100% controllable. She also claims she doesn't need to adjust hers, as she's convinced she sleeps a healthy amount of time and that everyone else should be doing the same as her. I often tell her that she pretty much sleeps and works. That's all she does. She has ADHD and hyper-focuses on her work, but her productivity is subpar, meaning she usually takes much longer than normal to complete her tasks, probably due to her struggles with attention. This is a common source of anxiety for her. I also believe she might be burned out, as again, she does nothing else in her awake time but work. At this point, I'm at a loss on what to do. I just don't want to lose the love of my life and best friend to what I consider an incompatible sleep pattern. I wonder about her quality of sleep. Perhaps she should try a sleep study. Sleep apnea can make one think they need a lot more sleep than they really do. I feel like I can give OP's answer to this. I've brought that up to her, and she says she knows more than the sleep specialists, and they should sleep 12 hours a day too. I love to sleep, and I value it deeply. I even teach my kids that a predictable sleep schedule as well as getting enough sleep is vital for our health and happiness. With that said, 12 hours of sleep is absolutely ridiculous. I know everyone is different, but 12 hours of sleep would have me feeling groggy. I'm pretty sure most doctors and specialists in the area of sleep would agree that 12 hours is way too much. You'd be asleep for half of your life. Mother asked when she's moving in with me and my partner in this rich country. This conversation took place during my grandmother's funeral. She was holding her plate of food and sat down next to my aunt and me on the couch, looking smug and smirking at people as if she was somehow better than them. It turned out she had gotten it into her head that she'd be moving to another country with me, my partner, and our kids. Since Grandma had passed, she figured she'd have no responsibilities anymore, being retired, and could live a luxurious life for free. She'd apparently been going around telling people that she'd be living in a ravishing, retired lifestyle in a rich Scandinavian country without lifting a finger. She asked me loudly, "So, when does my flight leave?" Confused, I asked her what she meant by that, and she said, loudly enough for everyone to hear, "You know, a flight back to your husband's country so I can live luxuriously like you promised me." I had promised her nothing. The only thing I'd ever promised was that I wouldn't talk to her again after flying back. So, being myself and unable to sugarcoat anything, I bluntly told her that it was never going to happen because I wasn't stupid enough to bring her around my family. My aunt and the rest of the room couldn't stop laughing. She must have thought she misheard, so I repeated, "You're not moving in with me, and you can erase that idea from your mind. You're dangerous, lazy, and greedy, and I'm not about to introduce that kind of energy to my family." She threw a tantrum, yelling and shouting about how she was entitled to move in with me and to be taken care of by the family. I fired back that unless she was willing to find a place to live on her own, find a job, learn a new language, and actually work again, she wouldn't survive. I wasn't about to take time and energy away from my family to cater to her laziness. She went silent after that and refused to talk to me for the rest of the evening. Fine by me, fine by everyone else too. They just had a good time giggling at how delusional she was. Edit. The reason this took place at such an inappropriate time was because I was leaving the day after. I wasn't staying with her, no way, so she had to talk to me right then and there. Was I already angry at her when she brought it up? Absolutely. This woman's mother, my grandmother, had just passed, and she had the nerve to speak happily about how she was moving away and leaving everything behind so she could live luxuriously. She loves buying brand name stuff, and no, I couldn't abide by that. Why is she dangerous? This woman would choose money over family at any time. If it meant she could maintain a certain lifestyle, she'd leave her family in a heartbeat. Manager wants to micromanage everyone and everything? Sounds good to us. MBA, Master in Business Administration. More often than not, those who possess such a degree are neither masters of anything nor business savvy. Unfortunately, MBAs often have enough fluency in buzzwords, jargon, and acronyms to fool many HR departments into believing they bring tremendous value. Their perceived value is often far greater than their actual value. The company I work for was recently acquired. It was a profitable company with a great culture, but that all changed when the new owners decided our company was inadequate and needed to be fixed with structure, hierarchy, and order. A new CEO came on board, fired all the old managers, and hired someone with an MBA to manage the department I work in. The CEO is keen to turn things around and ensure that we obey. This new manager, Bob, is a company man who came from the acquiring firm. Instead of understanding the who, what, when, where, why, and how of every person and process, he began his reign of terror by ruling through fear. He accuses us of inefficiencies and laziness. Example, "Why are you staying later like everyone else?" Nitpicks our work and micromanages areas he has zero understanding of. He loves preaching about MBA management techniques, leadership, standardization, metrics and matrices, AI automation, and anything that sounds good on paper. Note the term preach because that's all he does. He does not execute or lead, he just talks and manages, failing to truly understand. Because of who Bob is, we've all become yes men to his every will. We keep our heads down, nod, and smile. His fluent command of endless buzz phrases, acronyms, and nonsense has us so awed that we mostly just sit and stare in silence. The hierarchy of every meeting is that he talks until the very last second of the allotted time. But whenever a meeting somehow ends earlier than expected, he tells us, "I'm giving you some time back," implying that he owns our time while we're there. Since Bob wants to be the center of attention, he's asked us to involve him in everything. A hands-off manager who loves taking credit for our work but also wants to micromanage us? You bet we will comply. From that day onward, everyone in our department asks Bob, in writing, for his thoughts on just about anything, from simple approvals to his input on complex processes he doesn't understand. Even for items that don't require his action, we CC him to keep him in the loop. Every correspondence, even with vendors about basic matters like updating credit application details, involves Bob. Because Bob loves meetings so much, we invite him to discuss trivial matters that have no real-world consequences. We talk about everything he wants to get involved in because we know how much he loves listening to his own voice. There's something so magical about manipulating a manager into inundating us with pointless paperwork, processes, and meetings. Not only does it ensure the manager is aligned with our day-to-day activities, so he would be responsible if something goes wrong, but it also makes the manager feel good about doing something while we feel good about doing very little. My current girlfriend lies to everyone about the plastic surgery she had. My girlfriend and I moved to Europe a few years ago, and she ended up getting a lot of plastic surgery while we were out there that I begged her not to get. She got a nose job, fillers, chin surgery, and I don't even know what all else. I hate to say it, but it decreased her attractiveness. Don't get me wrong, she's still beautiful, but not nearly as gorgeous as what she used to look like. It also just makes me sad that she removed all the features that I loved on her face. It's also sad that people think these are features they need to remove. She looks hollowed out and tired now. But she doesn't want to admit that she got plastic surgery. We're back home from Europe, and people started commenting on her looks at dinner. One of her friends just straight out asked if she got something done, and she said no. She said it was just aging. Of course she was going to look different. She's 27, etc. I was shocked. I couldn't even believe she could play that card when the results are so dramatic. It's so obvious that she was lying, but no one called her out on it. My sister has been staying at my parents' house because I'm here, and she has been weirdly obsessed with her look since that dinner. She's only 24, and she's truly a baby. 24 seems so young now, or at least she makes it seem young. She admitted to me that seeing my girlfriend brought up feelings of anxiety towards aging. She said she didn't know how people could change so much, and it was stressing her out. She started calling me and freaking out about a line she found on her forehead, which was hardly noticeable at all. She isn't a person that's super fixated on her looks, normally at least, so it surprised me. But she was buying a lot of anti-aging skincare and applying it multiple times a day. I told her she was fine. All she had to do was moisturize and wear sunscreen. I mean, I looked the same as I did at 24, but she wasn't buying it, and it was obvious why. It hurt me so much to hear her like that. She kept putting retinol on her face and would ask me daily if I see lines going away when there were no lines in the first place. After a while of her spiraling, one day I finally broke down and said, "Dude, you're freaking out about aging because of my girlfriend. Chill out. She got plastic surgery. You don't just randomly start to have totally different features after you hit 25. You're gonna look exactly how you look now at 27. Relax." She's way too young to be hyperfixating on her looks and worrying about aging. She has an obsessive personality sometimes and gets fixated on things, probably the anxiety disorder. So just telling her that made her drop the subject. Thank God. I told her weeks ago, but last week my girlfriend asked if I told anyone about her plastic surgery. I admitted I did tell my sister because I didn't want to lie about it, and she's very mad at me. Was I wrong to tell her? My girlfriend didn't outright say not to tell people, but it was obvious that she wanted me to lie for her and expected me to do it. Not the jerk. When people deny having work done, especially when it's noticeable, people don't tend to believe them anyway. I don't think your girlfriend is fooling anyone. Your sister's well-being and state of mind are more important. Not the jerk. It's not like you rented a billboard and told the world. You told your sister to help her find peace with her self-image. Most people probably know your girlfriend had surgery, but they don't want to embarrass her. You're going to lie to the police? Sure, I'll go along with it. So I got into an accident a few days ago. It was minor, but mostly my fault. I was doing a K-turn out of a residential driveway onto a busy street, and while backing up, I hit a car that was speeding to get past. No airbags were deployed, and both cars were completely drivable. This accident happened at about 4:45. In the car was a middle-aged father and mother with a toddler in a car seat in the back next to the door that was hit. This family does not speak English. The father got out of the car and did the immediate, "Look at my damage," that came with the accident. He tells me there's a baby in the back and shows me the still sleeping kid. His wife immediately gets on the phone with who I believe is the police. We pull into a parking lot to get off the busy road and wait. About 20 minutes later, I grabbed their hubcap out of the road and handed it to the gentleman, and he opened the back door again and showed me the sleeping baby. It's now about 5:40, and the couple's niece and her boyfriend show up. They immediately demand money to fix the car, and I told them we'll go through insurance. She asked several times if I really want to go that route, and I told her there was no way I had the money to fix both cars, so insurance it is. She proceeds to call the police at that point. The aunt was on the phone with her and not the police. Ugh, fine. I'll wait even longer for the police to come. Around 6:15, the toddler finally wakes up and starts crying. It's now been asleep for at least an hour and a half and most likely is hungry. At 6:30, the cops show up and ask the niece if the baby needs paramedics, and the niece, who didn't show up until almost an hour after the initial collision, starts to lie to the police about how the baby has been crying since the accident and to send them. I've been in a few accidents over my years as a driver, and now I'm starting to smell what this really is. Insurance scam. I looked through my dash cam and was able to prove they sped through a red light right before the driveway where I turned from. When the cop came to ask me what happened, I told him my side of the events and showed him the dash cam, proving the light was red in the direction they claimed to be coming from. For good measure, I told the police that the baby only started crying about 15 minutes prior to when they got there. The niece started screaming that I was lying. I then told the police officer, if what she says is true, then I'd like to make a claim against them for endangerment. They claimed the baby was crying for the last 2 hours from the accident, and never once did they call 911 for medical assistance. They called their niece to come here instead of emergency services and only asked for them after they were offered. The car seat also isn't center mounted like required by state law and should be cited. At that point, the niece is calling me every name in the book, like she just found I cheated on her from Jerry Springer. I then calmly tell the officer that my dash cam was running the entire time we were stopped, and I had it recorded from when the kid woke up. The officer looked at her and said, "Ma'am, it's a crime to lie on a police report. Was the baby crying since the accident?" All of a sudden, she now had to check with her aunt and uncle to find out. She withdrew her claim, and the officer tossed out her witness statement because she wasn't an actual witness to anything. Hopefully, no BS lawsuit comes from this. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.